Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Joy here, and I am from the likes of the Mexi Toys videos here. And welcome to our next new Let's Play for the channel, and that's what appears to be for the fact that we are going on to yet another Powerpuff Girls game, except this time we're going on to not only for the Nintendo 64, but as well as the original PlayStation, which, as you can tell, the game we're going to be playing through is the Powerpuff Girls Chemical Extraction. Now, this game did first came out in 2001, the same time as the forms of one of those Game Boy Advance games, which appears to be the Powerpuff Girls Mojo A Go-Go, so as a result, though, you probably expect at this point. Now, as you can see on screen, the version we're going to be playing through, in regards to the forms of this game in particular, I'm going to be experiencing the PlayStation 1 version, because let me tell you, the N64 version is probably the worst of the two. Well, I'll explain more about that if we dive into this game. Now, unfortunately though, I haven't exactly got around on getting the physical copy of the game. Quite a few reasons why, mainly because as far as I'm aware, Christmas is just around the corner, which by that time period is about the fact that we've only got 5 more days left now until not only Christmas Day is going to be on its way, but alongside with that, there's also Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul is going to be releasing, but also Journey Forms have been today actually, which as a result, yes, today's date of course is the 20th of December today, in some cases in 2024 today, so you know what that means, folks. For those of you who lived in North America, Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the movie, has recently came out today for America. Although, unfortunately though, we have to wait for about a day later for the UK version, which honestly, I'm gonna be fine with that, especially recently though, is about the fact I've been busy re-watching not only Sonic the Hedgehog movie, the first one, but alongside with the forms of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 movie as well, to able to actually catch up to the forms of the recap just before we dive into Sonic the Hedgehog 3. So, it's obviously a good thing I somehow did that. So, now before we get into more details about the forms of how the gameplay itself actually plays out to be, and I can't believe by saying this, is about the fact that this is actually the third, the Powerpuff Girls game we are tackling through for our channel, because obviously though, is about the fact that it's been a whole year since we've last touched upon something related to the Powerpuff Girls, all thanks to the forms of not only him and Seek, but alongside with the forms of Mojo Jojo A Go-Go, both on the Game Boy Advance, thanks to not only Sonic the Hedgehog, alongside with the forms of Tiana the Frog, and Jewel the Blue Macaw. So anyway, enough about that, let's dive into story mode in a Powerpuff Girls Chemical Extraction.
Sugar, spice, and everything nice. These were the ingredients chosen to create the perfect little girl. But Professor Utonium accidentally added an extra ingredient to the concoction, Chemical X. Thus, the Powerpuff Girls were born! Using their ultra superpowers, Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup have dedicated their lives to fighting crime and the forces of evil! The city of Townsville. So today at the Utonium Chateau, the girls are adding together their own mix of sugar, spice, and everything nice to make the perfect little
pie. Come on, Bubbles, it's time to put the pie in the oven. I just have to add something extra special. Looks like we're just in time. We'll leave it right there to cool.
Little do the Powerpuff Girls know that I, Mojo Jojo, am sitting out here spying on them. And in my spying, I spied a pie. And not just any pie, a Chemical X pie. Now I, Mojo Jojo, will steal the pie with the Chemical X.
Uh-oh, girls. Looks like the pie has hit the fan.
Where's the pie? Why would anyone want to steal our pie? Well, since making the pie out of sugar, spice, and everything nice would only make it perfect, I added some Chemical X, so it would be super! With the addition of Chemical X, that piping hot pie was hot property, and only one villain is depraved enough to swipe an X-powered pie. Mojo Jojo. He's stolen our baked goods and made them baked bags! Come on, girls, let's go!
Now we, the villains of Townsville, are chock full of Chemical X. Now I wish for you all to wait for the inevitable appearance of the Powerpuff Girls, and then we can destroy them!
Oh, no. No more boredom in this town.
Now, unlike the Nintendo 64 version, that we didn't get the actual cutscene, whilst unlike the PlayStation version does have full motion video, well, it usually feels a bit weird with all this particular graphics and all that stuff, but I will have to admit it though right away. I do believe the PlayStation version is actually a little bit better. Well, not by much, because as you can see, since we're on story mode, we can able to actually take control of the 3 Powerpuff Girls, which are, you know, Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup. And the 3 do have their separate campaigns. So as a result though, as you can see, they are 0% at the moment. And luckily though, since this is on the PlayStation version, we do have the ability to save our game, thanks to the forms of the memory card support, because for whatever stupid reason, that the N64 version does not have a save feature, which honestly though, I would able to recommend skipping the N64 version of it entirely. Full explanations will come later, because as you can see, the first stage we're going to be dive into is Townsville City Hall, and obviously though is about the fact that we're going for this archaic kind of stage to stage, like for instance though, we're going from stage 1 all the way up to the final stage. Well, don't get your hopes up, because as far as I'm aware, they do have 5 stages total, or technically 6 stages actually. So yeah, let's get into the first battle in the entire game, and it looks like we're going to be face off against with Big Bully, one of those mean greenies as far as this is concerned, and obviously though is about the fact he's big and everything. So yeah, this is how the gameplay plays out in terms of the Powerpuff Girls chemical extraction. Basically though, it's a 3D kind of brawler fighting game, and every once in a while though is about the fact that you can either punch, or you can able to do some kicks, and most importantly though is that you can able to pick up objects, and you can able to actually throw objects right back at your opponent. Now this particular gameplay style plays rather similar to that particular previous Warner Brothers game that has already came out during in 2000, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is basically the Tom and Jerry Fists of Fury clone, because as far as I'm aware though, it's just that game, except the fact that it's all in Powerpuff Girls kind of aesthetics and skins to top it off. So relatively speaking, I was about the fact that I believe not able to actually do like special moves and stuff like that, as you can see on the actual health gauge as far as I'm aware. Basically though, we actually have ourselves a grand total of 3 Chemical X items that we can able to pick up. And as far as I'm aware, if you do manage to able to pick up all 3 of those Chemical X items, basically though, you can able to press the R1 button to able to perform a special move. And basically though, for instance though, oh dang it, I somehow almost get butt kicked by the forms of Big Bully right there, so it's not a great start for this particular Let's Play so far. I mean, relatively speaking, I was about the fact that I did manage to able to adjust the difficulty into medium mode, because I was assuming if I was trying to go for a harder challenge by going onto hardcore mode, but honestly folks, it's about the fact that I'll get into more gripes I have with this game and during at some points once we get into Bubbles and Buttercup playthroughs respectively. So as a result though, it's about the fact that this game is going to be pretty short no matter what. So And as far as you probably already know, ever since how Metawella did somehow mention about this ever since in yesterday's video, it is kind of unfortunate about the fact that we were originally able to do Sonic Generations for the 3DS Let's Play, but unfortunately though, if you couldn't tell already, it is officially being delayed presumably for the final time, and suffice to say, it's probably best if we're able to actually save that particular version after we're done with the main Sonic Generations game being remastered this time. And on top of all that stuff though, that could be also applies with Shadow Generations as well, but that particular topic can't wait once we make our way to 2025, so but I digress. So yeah, as you can see, we somehow win. So this means we can now able to move on to the next stage. And every time whenever you do manage to win a match, basically though, we're able to actually guarantee it's about the fact that we got that familiar heart background based off of a cartoon show. And on top of that, the narrator did say something, because yes, the PlayStation version does have voice actors, whilst unlike the N64 version, has completely lacking when it comes to voiceovers. So, and it's also worth noting for is about the fact I totally appreciate with the PlayStation version, it does have different music, as opposed to that gosh darn singular limited music from the N64 version. So that's the reason why we have decided to go for the PlayStation version as opposed to the Nintendo 64 version. So, not to mention though, is about the fact that all these, like I said before, is about the fact that there's no voice actors during the forms of in the N64 version, probably because of the cartridge limitations. And not to mention though, there's a lack of save feature, which as a result though, yeah, I can totally see why the N64 version pretty much sucks for that regard, but either way, I suppose beggars can't be choosers, I guess. So, and as you can see, we now ended up in, let's just say, the bank of any kind. And as you can tell, we are face up against with a next opponent, and that's what appears to be Seducer. So, which I definitely know about that particular villain for one of those episodes we do have for one of those DVDs for the Powerpuff Girls, which appears to be the main event, DVD compilation as far as I'm aware. And as far as I'm aware, I believe that particular episode was Something's Amiss or something like that. Mind you, it has been about quite some time since we actually known about something relates to the Powerpuff Girls, to be more specifically the original series, because still, the rebooted version still sucks in that regard, mainly because of not only voice actors have been replaced, although it is nice to see about the fact that, or to be more accurate though, it is nice to hear Tara Strong is going to be voicing Bubbles as far as the game we are doing right now, and on top of all that stuff though is about the fact that I honestly still prefer the original Powerpuff Girls series than the likes of how it does it in reboot series, because obviously though you probably already know what I'm talking about. So anyway, so as I said before, is about the fact that, well, today's date, of course, is the 20th of December today, in some cases in 2024 today. So naturally speaking, I was about the fact that not only does Mufasa the Lion King somehow came out just today, but it's also about the fact that, yes, as I mentioned this earlier, the American version of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie has also recently came out today. And as far as the actual reviews has been according to plan, well, suffice to say, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is doing pretty well in terms of the forms of review scores alike, apart from one of those things about the fact, did you guys even remember, ever since around a couple of weeks ago, or to be more accurate though, it's been a month ago since that particular obscure review score, in terms of the forms of IGN in mind, that you guys even remember that it was very unexpected that IGN received Mario Luigi Brothership at 5 out of 10? Well, unfortunately though, IGN just somehow strikes again. And no matter what though, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 the movie for IGN gives the actual film a 6 out of 10, which, really? I just have no words to say. And for whatever stupid reason, they somehow give Mufasa the Lion King an 8 out of 10, and I was like, are you for real, IGN, right now? I mean, I'm basically done with IGN at this point in time, especially concerning for the fact that unlike in any other reviewers out there, including certain audiences as well, they seem to really enjoy this film so far. Well, in terms of Sonic the Hedgehog 3, that is, but in comparison to the films of Mufasa the Lion King, I mean, sure, everyone else do have their own different opinions, but for me, though, I was able to skip that particular film entirely to me, though, because I really still wish if that was on 2D animation, because for 2D animation, that could work, especially that we can able to definitely tell the characters' expressions, and not to mention that it'll just get a lot more brighter and colorful, whilst unlike the live-action version of the films of not only The Lion King 2019, but recently though with Mufasa the Lion King, even to this day, that the colors look a bit dull in comparison to the films the animated counterparts, but that's just me, because let me tell you, I'm so sick and tired of the films of live-action Disney films at this point, because it might as well be overstay its welcome, and not to mention that, well, it gets a lot more less expressive, and it gets a lot like dull colored looked, and not to mention though, a lot of controversial opinions during the forms of any other aspects, all things considered. So, that's just me, I'm biased I guess, so... But anyway, as you can see, we now ended up in the next stage, and this time we're going to be faced up against with this particular rival of any sort, and that's what appears to be Princess Marbox. So, yeah, obviously that was about the fact that, well, she was trying to fly around at one point, and yeah, much like the films of how it does it for Tom and Jerry Fists of Fury for the Nintendo 64, obviously though you can able to pick up objects and you can able to throw objects right back at your opponent, and obviously that was about the fact I can totally see why. This game is basically a clone of Tom and Jerry in Fists of Fury, because it's made by the same developer, and not to mention though, unlike the films of how it does it on well, in that game in particular, Fists of Fury, that at one point it did somehow first came out on the Nintendo 64 during in 2000, but then it wasn't until, I would say 2 years later, they somehow managed to remake the game into a different title, which appears to be Tom and Jerry in War of the Whiskers. So, at least as far as I'm usually guessing it correctly, although I may be wrong, because mind you about the fact that I haven't exactly experienced that particular game for myself on the N64 game, or the PlayStation 2 remake. So, and usually, as I stated this before, that the Powerpuff Girls Chemical Extraction, not only does it came out on the Nintendo 64, but as well as PlayStation. So as a result though, and for some reason, it's about the fact that the Nintendo 64 version was only exclusive to America, just like the forms of how it does in several of N64 games back in the day, ranging from Dr. Mario 64 as one of those examples, and as far as I'm aware though, luckily we did somehow receive the PlayStation version in the European regions, so yes, aside from all that stuff though, I definitely know for certain for one thing, that a lot of people seem to really dislike this game for some reason, mainly because not only is because it's a little bit too, what's the word I'm looking for, simplistic, and not to mention though is about the fact that it just feels a bit uninspired with this particular 3D fighting game, all things considered. Mind you, because of how the fact that this game came out like 2 years after Super Smash Bros., because I already know for a fact that Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo 64 was very popular back in the day, especially because we actually got ourselves a massive Nintendo crossover game, like you're able to see Mario fighting against with Link, and even with Samus Aran, and even with Pikachu, Kirby, and even Ness from Earthbound, and heck, even with the forms of Captain Falcon as well. So, chances are though is about the fact that yeah, this game is not that very great to me though, especially concerning for the fact that obviously though is about the fact that it just feels a bit too similar to the forms of yet another worst fighting game at the time, and that's what appears to be The Simpsons Wrestling, because we already know for a fact that The Simpsons Wrestling is overall is the worst The Simpsons game ever made, next to the forms of The Simpsons Skateboarding for the PlayStation 2, not only because of how the fact that it contains the blue disc, because it's obviously made for specifically compact disc, but it's also about the fact that it's basically a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater clone, and not to mention though is about the fact that the mechanics and the controls do not work half the time, especially concerning for the fact that it is seriously unbearably bad for that particular game, as I mentioned this earlier. So, but anyway, so we did somehow win against with the forms of the next character, or the next rival we did somehow take down. That's what it appears to be. Fuzzy Lumpkins. So, and as far as I'm aware, I believe you do need to unlock him somehow. And to unlock him though, according to the forms of the brackets description, I believe we need to only beat the likes of the forms of the Fuzzy Lumpkins as Blossom. So, and I believe that could be also applies with the two other characters as well. So either way, let's go on to the next stage, which appears to be Townsville City Dump. So, I get the feeling we need to face off against with a next character to face off against, and that's what it appears to be. As soon as when those loading screens are done, that's we're going to be faced off against with Ace, another one of those mean greenies as far as this is concerned. And relatively speaking, I was about the fact that if you pretty much know exactly what to do, then you might be okay. As long as about the fact that the game attempts able to actually brings us into the most broken and overpowered special technique, assuming if you're trying to do with a lot of button mashing, because I can definitely tell you for sure right off the bat though, that this game does not have a lot of replayability, which as a result though, like I said this before, is going to be pretty short. So no matter what though, for the majority of the time that we're going to be focusing on this from now on, just before Christmas is just around the corner, alongside with the forms of Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul is going to be on its way too. So yeah, I got nothing else to say about it. And I suppose once we're able to actually take down Ace, I'm pretty sure we can able to actually take on Mojo Jojo on the next stage coming up. Now, the reason why I say the next stage is because, well, it's probably best if we save that particular topic and join at some point until on Monday, presumably speaking, because I already know for the fact that Sonic is just about to be prepared to able to actually focusing on the final two cups for the likes of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Boosticles Pass DLC. So either way, so stay tuned for that for this particular weekend coming up, along the same time actually as what the fact that no matter what though, that me and Silver and the rest of the gang are pretty much prepared to able to actually go ahead and see Sonic the Hedgehog 3 until tomorrow. So either way though, and let me tell you for this point guys, no spoilers for this point please, because obviously though, if you know, I just really want to see that film so badly, you know? Well, luckily though, a lot of Sonic fans, ourselves included, was expected to be able to see the film at the very least. So, I don't think it's possible it will be able to actually reach onto #1 box office records for 2024, because that still honor goes to Inside Out 2, because I already know for a fact that that film was incredibly popular back in during the summer season. So, and I'm not exactly sure what's been going on for Moana 2, but I suppose we'll let, or should I say, I was able to mention more about it probably at some point on Monday and Tuesday respectively. So, but I digress. So, there's also another thing else that's worth noting for actually, is about the fact that when it comes to the forms of Nintendo Music app, that did you guys know about the fact that they somehow managed able to get like, well, there's actually some handful of hidden Splatoon songs have been removed. And for instance though, there's like 5 different tracks has been removed. Like for instance though, there's a music specifically for Splatoon 2 that certain tracks contains A Brighter Future Awaits. And as a result though, yeah, that's one of those music has been removed from that app. And in addition to that though, there's also January 2017 trailer music, and there's also bonus track After Octo, and Split Apocalypse, which appears to be final Splatfest trailer, and finally though, Ingopolis Memorial mixtape. So yeah, I do apologize for that particular tongue twist in the end, folks, because it has been quite some time since I actually mentioned something relates to Nintendo Music app, because as far as I'm aware, the Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword music selection has already been added ever since on Tuesday or Monday, depending on what region you lived in. So, Anyways though, also, as far as I'm aware, still no luck of the forms of Hollow Knight Silk Song, because let's face it though, at this point in time, we're actually on to approximately for about over 1,400 days without any sort of like news and updates for Hollow Knight Silk Song, which it's very unfortunate because as far as I'm aware, it does have some high expectations. It might able to actually expect it to be releasing at some point, likely for instance by the end of the year, but actually as it turns out it's already too late for now, mainly because as far as I'm aware though, they have a lot of trouble developing for that particular game in mind, so... But anyways though folks, as you can see, we are face up against with Mojo Jojo, as you can tell, and basically though is about the fact that it does manage to take place on the forms of his laboratory, so yeah, we definitely need to defeat him, and he's gonna be pretty tough though, especially concerning for the fact that, well, assuming of course if you don't utilize the broken special technique that you can able to pull off by keep on doing a lot of insane button mashing, so yeah, I digress. And I suppose the final thing I wanted to you know, discuss upon on something, and that's what appears to be for the fact that recently though, Disney Speedstorm has recently added some more characters based off from The Incredibles, and so much so about the fact that we can expect able to see not only Mr. Incredible himself, but in addition to that, Elastigirl, and other playable characters I can probably think about on top of my head. I mean, mind you though, is about the fact it has been about quite a few months ago since we've last discussed upon the forms of Disney Speedstorm, ever since they've somehow added in, you know, Inside Out 2 playable characters like myself, and Sadness, and Anger, and you pretty much name the rest of it though. Now, and I suppose there's technically one last thing before we end off the video here, and no matter what though, usually for that particular most recent, the Game Awards, the Game Awards in 2024 was meant to be a celebration for the 10th anniversary of the Game Awards, and what's my final thoughts of that particular Game Awards as far as this year is concerned? I think it was alright. I mean, again, about the fact that I would like to able to congratulate, you know, Astrobot for able to actually win the insane amount of awards, and not only that though, we still fully appreciate that we're expecting to get ourselves to yet another Sonic Racing game, which appears to be Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, and of course Okami's sequel is on its way. So with that being said folks, so that pretty much does it for Blossom's campaign. So with that being said folks, is that we get ending self this point right here. So join me next time for more Let's Play of the Powerpuff Girls Chemical Extraction. Instead, we're going on to the next campaign, which appears to be Bubbles, the most adorable one out of the bunch. So I'll see you guys on Monday. Later, fellas.